But then again, I love the dreamers. I love the people who want to take it to the next level. That's what I like. I think it keeps a company young.
A comedy legend, a backyard mechanic from Leicester, and a car brand that suddenly looked very, very nervous. According to a circulating video, Leno allegedly reached out to YouTube's most notorious car rebuilder, Matt Armstrong, and fans lost it. Would one of the world's most famous car collectors really hand his garage over to a self-taught YouTuber who once out-argued Bugatti itself? Stick around, because this story has wrecked supercars, furious CEOs, and an unconfirmed twist nobody in the comments saw coming. The call heard around the internet. It started, as these things do, with a video title that stopped scrolling thumbs in their tracks. Leno had reportedly called Matt Armstrong, and according to the clip making the rounds, Bugatti should be worried. Now, before anyone gets carried away, let's be honest about what we actually know here. There is no confirmed report, no press release, and no joint statement from either camp. What exists is a single commentary video making the claim, and no independent outlet has verified it. Gossip like this travels fastest exactly when the story sounds too good to check twice. So, treat everything about the Leno connection in this video as an unconfirmed rumor, not a fact. But here's why the internet ran with it anyway. Leno is not some casual car guy. He is arguably the most recognizable automotive collector on the planet, a man with a personal garage that rivals small museums and a reputation for being ruthlessly picky about who touches his vehicles. So when word got around that he had allegedly reached out to Matt Armstrong, a Leicester-born YouTuber best known for rebuilding cars that manufacturers had already given up on, the automotive world sat up straight. Fans immediately split into two camps. One side said it made total sense. Of course, a genuine gearhead like Leno would notice a mechanic willing to do what factory-trained technicians won't. The other side wondered if this was just another dramatized headline riding on Armstrong's ongoing, very real feud with Bugatti. Either way, the claim alone was enough to reignite a question that had been quietly building for months. According to the people who believe it, is Matt Armstrong actually good enough to earn that level of confidence from someone like Leno? Comment sections filled up almost instantly. Some viewers pointed out that Leno has spent decades quietly championing independent mechanics and backyard restorers over polished dealership showrooms. Others were more skeptical, noting that headlines involving Armstrong and a furious or worried manufacturer have practically become their own genre online, with a new dramatic title dropping what feels like every other week. Both reactions, oddly enough, proved the same point. This is a mechanic whose name alone is now enough to generate global buzz. One quick clarification before we go further. This has nothing to do with the fictional sitcom storyline where a character named Matt runs a garage Leno visits on screen. That's scripted television. This story is about the real Matt Armstrong, the YouTuber from Leicester. To answer whether any of it holds up, you have to understand who Armstrong actually is and how far he's come from where he started. Because the reported phone call, whether it happened exactly as described or not, didn't come out of nowhere. It came after years of Armstrong building a reputation that manufacturers reportedly can't ignore, one wrecked car at a time. So what exactly did this Leicester mechanic do to get onto a legend's radar in the first place? From wrecks to a reputation nobody saw coming. Matt Armstrong didn't start out fixing million-dollar hypercars. He started out fixing whatever was in front of him, because that was the job. Long before six-figure Bugattis and headline-grabbing showdowns, Armstrong was working part-time gigs, delivering food, bartending, turning wrenches in tuning shops, just trying to make ends meet while chasing a completely different dream. The turning point came almost by accident. When his girlfriend's Audi TT was badly damaged in a crash, most people would have called the insurance company and moved on. Armstrong bought the wreck instead and filmed himself rebuilding it from the ground up. Nobody involved thought that decision would become the foundation of a career watched by millions. But something about watching an ordinary guy take apart a wrecked car piece by piece and bring it back to life struck a nerve online. From there, the projects escalated fast. A damaged Bentley Continental GT picked up during the pandemic helped his audience grow substantially. Then came the Porsches, the Lamborghinis, the Rolls-Royces, each one a car that a traditional body shop might have written off, and each one a chance for Armstrong to prove that persistence and mechanical stubbornness could beat a total loss label. What makes his story land with fans isn't polish. It's the opposite. Armstrong has openly described himself as just a regular guy from Leicester, winging it for a good time, never taking things too seriously. That self-deprecating honesty, paired with genuinely impressive fixes, turned him from a niche car channel into a nine-figure view phenomenon with millions of subscribers across his platforms. He has never claimed to have a favorite manufacturer or a dream car sitting in his head since childhood. Instead, viewers say what keeps them coming back is the unpredictability of it all. You never quite know whether the next upload will end in triumph, disaster, or some chaotic mixture of both. Armstrong has even given cars away to fans through raffles, turning expensive rebuilds into moments the whole community gets to share in, rather than trophies locked away in a private collection. That combination of relatability and genuine mechanical skill is rare, and it's precisely why manufacturers eventually had to start paying attention. But reputation only tells half the story. Behind the wrenches and the rebuild montages is a background most casual viewers never think to ask about. One that explains exactly why Armstrong approaches broken cars the way he does. So who was Matt Armstrong before any of the cameras were rolling? The boy from Leicester who grew up under a car. Long before Matt Armstrong was rebuilding hypercars for an audience of millions, he was a kid in Leicester, England, hanging around his father's garage. His dad, Tony Armstrong, was a skilled automotive mechanic who ran his own shop, and young Matt spent countless hours watching and helping him work, absorbing mechanical instincts that no classroom could have taught him. His parents separated during his childhood, and alongside his father, he grew up with a sister, Holly. Cars, though, weren't his first obsession. As a teenager, Armstrong threw himself into competitive BMX riding, earning sponsorships and traveling internationally to compete in freestyle events across France, Germany, and Dubai. For years, that was the plan: ride, compete, chase the next event. He balanced his athletic pursuits with his education at Lutterworth College, but it was BMX that consumed most of his energy and ambition. Then everything changed in an instant. During a qualifying run at the BMX World Championships in Germany, Armstrong suffered a shoulder dislocation that left him with lasting instability. The injury did more than sideline him for a season. It ended his career as a full-time athlete altogether. For a young man who had built his identity around competition, that loss could easily have been the end of the story. Instead, it became the beginning of a different one. With BMX no longer an option and mechanical work already wired into him from childhood, Armstrong pivoted toward the garage he'd grown up in. He launched his YouTube channel back in 2013, initially posting BMX content years before a single wrecked car ever appeared on camera. In between chasing sponsorships and nursing his shoulder, he took on part-time jobs, delivering food, bartending, and working in automotive retail and tuning shops, quietly stacking up mechanical experience without realizing it would ever matter beyond paying the bills. Nobody watching those early clips could have predicted that a shoulder injury would eventually lead to standoffs with Bugatti and, allegedly, a phone call from Leno himself. There was no 5-year plan, no calculated pivot into hypercar rebuilds. There was just a kid from Leicester who lost the sport he loved and drifted back toward the one place that had always felt familiar: his father's garage. It's a strange kind of full circle, a boy who grew up under a car, chased a completely different dream, and got pulled back to the garage by injury rather than choice. But once he was back, Armstrong didn't just tinker. He went after the kinds of wrecks nobody else wanted to touch. And one car in particular would turn him from a car-fixing YouTuber into a name manufacturers themselves couldn't ignore. So what happened when Armstrong decided to take on a Bugatti? the Bugatti war that made him famous. If there's one saga that explains why fans could believe Jay Leno might personally reach out to Matt Armstrong, it's this one. Armstrong's rebuild of a wrecked Bugatti Chiron Pour Sport, one of only 60 ever made, originally priced north of $3.6 million, became the biggest talking point of his entire career. And it wasn't just to be about the money. The car, owned by content creator Alex Gonzalez, had been damaged in a crash. Rather than sending it back to Bugatti in France, Gonzalez chose to have it rebuilt privately, reportedly out of fear that once the car entered the manufacturer's system, it would stay there indefinitely while costs quietly climbed. Armstrong took the job and quickly discovered why nobody wanted it. According to figures reported around the rebuild, the insurance estimated repair quote landed above $1.7 million, with individual carbon fiber headlights alone priced at roughly $174,000 a pair, numbers that came from coverage of the project rather than an official Bugatti price sheet. Armstrong didn't back down. He and his team began sourcing parts independently, fabricating what they couldn't buy, and documenting every painful step for an audience that could hardly believe what it was watching. And then something happened that no one expected. Bugatti Rimac CEO Mate Rimac reportedly started watching too, and appeared to respond directly to Armstrong's content. Armstrong himself said in his own video that he was startled a hypercar CEO was even aware of his channel, let alone engaging with it, a claim from Armstrong's own account, not an independent confirmation from Bugatti. This wasn't just a mechanic fixing a car anymore. It became a public conversation about right to repair, about whether manufacturers should be allowed to treat crashed supercars as disposable, and about whether independent skill could genuinely rival factory-authorized perfection. Armstrong insisted he wasn't trying to start a fight with Bugatti, he just wanted a fair shot at fixing the car without the astronomical price tag attached to the official route. According to Armstrong, part of the reasoning behind keeping the rebuild private in the first place was fear that once the Chiron entered Bugatti's official system in France, it would simply stay there indefinitely, with the manufacturer uncovering more issues and the bill climbing higher the longer it sat. That fear alone says a great deal about how owners of these ultra-rare machines view the official repair process. Less like a safety net and more like a financial trapdoor. Armstrong positioning himself as the alternative to that trapdoor is exactly what turned a single car rebuild into a referendum on the entire hypercar repair industry. That kind of public, high-stakes standoff with one of the most exclusive car manufacturers on Earth doesn't happen quietly. It gets noticed. And if a claim about Jay Leno reaching out really does have any truth to it, this Bugatti saga is almost certainly the reason his name landed on a legend's radar in the first place. But Bugatti wasn't the only manufacturer Armstrong found himself at odds with. What happened when he turned his attention to Ferrari? The Ferrari standoff and the fuse that embarrassed a hypercar brand. As if a public battle with Bugatti wasn't enough, Armstrong found himself in a strikingly similar situation with Ferrari. After purchasing a wrecked Ferrari 296 GTB, he ran into a hybrid system failure that displayed nothing but a blunt warning: go to dealer. Rather than accepting defeat, Armstrong committed to rebuilding the car himself, hoping to eventually secure the manufacturer's cooperation along the way. Midway through the process, Armstrong ordered genuine 296 challenge parts, aiming to transform the car into something closer to a race-spec build. Some components arrived without issue. Then, reportedly, Ferrari cut off further orders and insisted the car first be inspected at a certified body shop before receiving any further assistance. By that point, several track-only parts had already been fitted, leaving Armstrong far less confident that official help was coming. He ultimately emailed Ferrari directly, hoping the company would reconsider. Around the same time, Armstrong's ongoing relationship with Bugatti kept delivering headlines of its own. After purchasing a second Bugatti, a repossessed Veyron, At what he described only as a significantly lower price, Armstrong said he uncovered a fault that would normally cost an owner between $350,000 and $400,000 to fix at an official dealership, a figure that comes from Armstrong's own telling of the story, not a published Bugatti rate card. His solution, he claimed, turned out to be a simple fuse sourced from a local auto parts shop for a matter of dollars. He went on to say that many Veyron components are actually standard parts shared across the wider manufacturing group, a claim that, if accurate, would undercut years of eye-watering official service pricing. Two hypercar brands, two very different disputes, and one common thread running through both. Armstrong kept proving that problems manufacturers priced as catastrophic were often solvable with patience, research, and a willingness to get his hands dirty. That reputation for stubborn, resourceful, borderline defiant repair work is exactly the kind of thing that tends to catch the attention of people who've spent their entire lives around cars. It also made Armstrong a magnet for headlines beyond his own channel. Reaction and commentary videos built entirely around his exploits started multiplying, with titles claiming manufacturers were furious, rival CEOs were making statements, and entire brands were supposedly in trouble because of one YouTuber working out of a modest garage in England. Not every one of those claims can be verified, and plenty are almost certainly exaggerated for clicks. But the sheer volume of them tells its own story. Armstrong had become impossible to ignore, whether the establishment liked it or not. Which brings us back to the biggest question hanging over this entire story. If a car legend like Jay Leno really did make contact, what would that conversation even mean for someone like Armstrong? Why a legend might choose the underdog. Here's the thing about Jay Leno that makes this whole rumor so believable to fans, even without hard confirmation. Leno isn't just wealthy, he's famously, obsessively knowledgeable about cars, with a collection reportedly valued around $100 million and a reputation for being blunt about who he trusts and who he doesn't. He has been openly critical of certain manufacturer dealership experiences in the past, which makes the idea of him gravitating toward an independent mechanic willing to challenge those same manufacturers feel, at the very least, plausible. To be clear, this section is speculation about why the rumor resonates with fans, not evidence that the contact actually happened. If the reported call between Leno and Armstrong genuinely happened, it wouldn't just be a celebrity moment. It would be a symbolic one. It would suggest that even someone with unlimited access to official, brand-authorized service centers might still value the kind of scrappy, hands-on problem-solving that built Armstrong's entire channel, that a garage in Leicester, run by a former BMX rider with no formal manufacturer training, could earn the same kind of confidence a factory service bay carries by default. And that's really what this story has been about from the very beginning, whether every detail checks out or not. It's a story about the growing tension between manufacturers who treat damaged supercars as disposable and independent mechanics who refuse to accept that. It's about Bugatti and Ferrari both, in their own ways, having to reckon with a YouTuber who wouldn't quietly go away. And it's about whether reputation, earned one impossible rebuild at a time, can eventually open doors that money alone cannot. Think about the optics for a moment. Leno could call literally any authorized specialist on Earth and have a car collected within the hour. If, as the rumor claims, he chose to reach out to a self-taught mechanic in Leicester instead, that would say something far bigger than a simple repair request, that even at the very top of car culture, confidence is still earned through hands-on results, not brand names and glossy showrooms, if the story holds up. Whether or not Jay Leno ever actually reached out to Matt Armstrong's garage, one thing is undeniable. Armstrong built a name that made the rumor believable in the first place. And in the world of celebrity car culture, sometimes that's the real story worth watching. So there you have it, a legend, an underdog mechanic, and a rumor dramatic enough to make Bugatti sweat, according to a circulating video that still hasn't been independently confirmed. One thing's certain, Matt Armstrong didn't earn his real, documented reputation by accident, and the manufacturers who underestimated him are still dealing with the fallout. If stories like this keep you hooked, you already know what to do. Subscribe, stay close, and get ready, because our next deep dive is coming fast, and trust us, you will not want to miss it.